My name is Adam Rucker, and I'm joined by my co-counsel Lexington Link and Jeremiah Ikewana. And today we represent the state of Midlands. Next, we have some pretrial documents we'd like to bring to the bench and tender, including Midlands Rules of Evidence, the indictment and bill of particulars, entry of dismissal, orders of motion to eliminate, states and defendant's initial discovery response, stipulations, special instructions, and relevant cases. May I approach the tender?
Have you seen these documents?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Please approach.
And next, the state moves to invoke Rule 615, the constructive sequestration of witnesses barring party representatives. In today's case, we have no party representative.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
And lastly, since this is our first time in Your Honor's courtroom, we ask your preference for moving about the well, approaching opposing counsel, witnesses, and the bench.
The well is yours. Please move about freely for directs, crosses, statements. Ask before approaching opposing parties' witnesses, and ask before approaching the bench. You're free to approach opposing counsel without asking. You're free to approach your own witnesses without asking.
And with that, we are ready to proceed with opening statements.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to make appearances in the court.
Okay.
My name is Jonathan Shinopolsius. I'm joined by my co-counsel, Tanner Holmes.
Good morning, Your Honor.
My co-counsel, Greg Dunn. Good morning, Your Honor. And we represent the defendant in today's case, Ms. Jordan Ryder.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Now, at this time, the defense would like to offer character evidence intended to the bench.
Seen and signed by both parties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Approach.
At this time, the defense is ready to proceed.
Okay, and then for the purposes of 615, Jordan Ryder is in the room.
Yes.
Okay. Opening for the states.
May it please the court, Your Honor, and members of the jury. Motive means moment. After the sudden death of her parents and her spouse, Jordan Ryder soon found herself struggling to make ends meet and put food on the table for her daughter, Parker Page. Jordan Ryder turned to money laundering and soon found herself sitting in a prison cell. While in prison, her situation only worsened when her daughter was diagnosed with brittle bones disease. Jordan Ryder began to send her daughter letters upon letters about being superheroes who scale mountains together. But years later, when Jordan Ryder finally left that prison cell, reality hit. The little superhero girl she expected to walk into the arms of was not real. Instead, Jordan Ryder was met with a sickly teenager who was complete with angst and mood swings. To make matters even worse, Jordan Ryder was unemployed and had medical bills looming over her. All of this drove Miss Ryder to an act of fatal desperation. On July 14th, Miss Ryder took Parker Page camping at Calkins Campground, making sure to submit a life insurance policy on her a mere hours before arriving at the campsite. After a long day of hiking, it was at the top of an overlook that Miss Ryder took her daughter's hiking stick from her hands and used it to push her over the edge of a 40-foot cliff to her death. We, the prosecution, bring a charge of aggravated murder against Jordan Ryder. As the prosecution, we bear the burden of proof in today's trial. This means we must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Jordan Ryder used physical force to push her daughter, Parker Page, off the Lacrone Loop to her death. We will prove this to you and that Jordan Ryder had the motive, means, and moment by calling 3 witnesses. First, we will call Detective Jacob Chesney, the major crimes detective in charge of the investigation into Parker Page's death. Detective Chesney will tell you about his investigation that led to the arrest of Mr. Ryder, as well as the evidence used to come to this conclusion. Next, you will hear from a fellow camper at Calkins Campground that weekend, Kelly Dews. Miss Dews will tell you about her interactions with Miss Ryder and Parker Page, as well as watching Miss Ryder seize the hiking staff from Parker Page's hands a mere moments before hearing a loud yell. Finally, you will hear from Dr. Ronald Quincy, the Chief Medical Examiner who performed the autopsy on Parker Page. Dr. Ronald Quincy will tell you about his autopsy as well as the fact that the injuries sustained on Parker Page indicated not an accidental fall, but an intentional push over the 40-foot cliff. Today, the defense is going to come up here and try and tell you a story. They're going to try and tell you that a 12-year-old girl with brittle bones disease, with bones that could snap from a simple fall, happened to wander off miles on her own on a hiking trail through miles of leaves, twigs, rocks, and elevation, where she happened to fall to her death. This is not true. Mr. Ryder forced her daughter with brittle bones disease to climb a dangerous hiking trail, and at the top of the Calkins Overlook, took her hiking stick and used it to push her over the edge to her death. This afternoon, my co-counsel, Adam Rucker, will come up here and ask you to return the right verdict of guilty of aggravated murder, because Miss Ryder had the motive, she had the means, and she had the moment.
Opening for the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed? May it please the court, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. They have accusations, but they don't have answers. Members of the jury, the prosecution just came before you and accused Jordan Ryder of pushing her daughter off a cliff. They accused a mother of pushing their daughter off of a cliff. However, they failed to mention a few things. They failed to mention any witnesses that saw this happen, any witnesses that were there when Parker died, and any evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that can prove Jordan did it. They have the accusations, but they don't have answers. This is Jordan Ryder. Jordan Ryder is a loving, caring parent who wanted nothing more than the best for her daughter Parker. So, when Parker came to her asking to go on a hiking trip, Jordan was ecstatic. She wanted to take Parker to the Calkins campgrounds in Midlands, as she heard the trails there were not just the best in the area, but some of the best in the entire state. So, they packed their bags, bought some supplies, and set off for their adventure, settling at Campsite 12. On their day of hiking, they started off on the Ziegler Path for a nice warm-up hike, and then moved on to the Lacrone Loop, a trail recommended to them by Armani Rodriguez himself, the campsite owner. However, after making it up about halfway through the loop, Miss Ryder realized very quickly it was not the right trail for her and her daughter. Steep cliffs, rocks, drop-offs, it was not the right place for her young daughter. So they decided to turn around and make it back to camp. They returned to camp, settled back into their tent. However, frustrations from the day began to boil over and an argument ensued. Parker raised her voice, Miss Ryder raised her voice, and in a fit of rage, Parker stormed out of the tent into the wilderness. Jordan wished to chase after her daughter, but she thought back to her time in prison, where she got anger management, so she calmed herself, took a breath, and waited to relieve the situation when she felt like she could do it appropriately. After taking her time to relax, she opened the tent to go speak with her daughter and make things right. However, catastrophe had already struck. Parker was nowhere in sight, and daylight was already starting to fade. Miss Ryder entered panic, began to search the entire area around her campground, searched the campsite itself. She even got back into her truck and drove to the beignet store they had been to earlier that morning. There was Wi-Fi there. She had hoped maybe her daughter had gone there trying to get some help. Parker wasn't there either. So Miss Ryder returned to her tent, without her daughter, and fell into a restless sleep, hoping that in the morning, maybe her daughter would come back to her, or the daylight would help her find her daughter. Instead, she was woken by police officers who accused her of murdering her daughter. She was woken by police officers who threw her in the back of the car, drove her to the station, and on the way to the station, over the radio, she heard that her daughter was dead. Not a chance to say goodbye. Now, the prosecution is charging Miss Ryder with aggravated murder. This means that Miss Ryder knowingly caused the death of a child under the age of 13, and it's already been stipulated before today's trial that Parker Page was under the age of 13 when she died, as she was 12. Now, this leaves us with knowingly and causation. Causation can be defined in two parts. First, Parker's death would not have occurred if not for the actions taken by Jordan Ryder. And second, Parker's death was the natural and foreseeable result of those actions. This next brings us to knowingly, which, like causation, can also be defined in two parts. First, prosecution must prove that Miss Ryder was aware of her actions, and second, they must prove that Miss Ryder was practically certain her actions would lead to the death of Parker Page. They must prove these standards beyond a reasonable doubt today. Knowingly and causation raise two very important questions in today's case. When did Parker die, and how did Parker die? To answer these questions, we're going to call forth three witnesses who actually can't answer these. We'll hear from Miss Ryder first, who to this day has no idea how Parker died. During the investigation, she's been told no information about her daughter's death or what could have actually caused it. She's only been accused. Next, you'll hear from Dr. Edward Lopez, who's here to critique the work of Dr. Quincy. Dr. Lopez will express several possible errors in Dr. Quincy's report revolving around the time of Parker's death and how she actually died. And finally, you'll hear from Cameron Lee, a hiker who was on the trail that day that believes they saw Jordan and Parker leaving the very hike that Miss Ryder's accused of killing Parker on, proving again that no one knows exactly when Parker died. They have the accusations, but they don't have the answers. At the end of today's trial, my co-counsel, Mr. Greg Dunn, will come before you and relay out the facts of today's case and explain everything that happened and point you in the direction that makes any sense. Find Miss Ryder not guilty of aggravated murder. Thank you.
Does the prosecution have a case in chief?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would like to call Detective Chesney. May I proceed? Please introduce yourself for the members of the court.
Hi, my name is Detective Jacob Chesney.
What do you do for a living, Detective Chesney?
I've been with the Midland Center Police Department for 10 years now, and then when I was moved up to Major Crimes in 2016, I've been operating there since.
And why have you been called here to testify today?
I was the head investigator into the missing persons case of Parker Page.
And where did this investigation begin?
It started off fairly early in the morning on July 15th, 2018. I was led to the house of one Corbin Dallas, who had placed a call that Parker Page had been missing.
Did you learn anything from speaking with Corbin Dallas?
Yes, I spoke with them for a while and began searching that area. After a while, Corbin Dallas provided a Find My Phone application that led us to the last known location of Parker Page's phone, which was Calkins Campground.
And did you go to Calkins Campground?
Yes, I left there shortly after. I introduced myself to Armando Rodriguez, the owner of Calkins, as Detective Chesney.
And what happened when you spoke to Mr. Rodriguez?
I provided a photo of Parker Page, and he was able to recognize her and said that she was staying here with her mother, Jordan Ryder, for the weekend.
Where were they staying?
At Campsite 12. Armando led me there, and that's where I found Jordan Ryder.
Did you speak with Miss Ryder?
Yes, I introduced myself as Detective Chesney and began to ask them a few questions regarding Parker.
And for the record, Detective Chesney, can you point out where Miss Ryder is in this courtroom?
Yes, it is the individual wearing a pink shirt with black pants.
Now, what did you learn from speaking with Miss Ryder?
I learned that she was unaware of where Parker Page was at the time and that she was worried of being in violation of her parole.
And what did you do as a result of what you learned?
Shortly after, I had her arrested for that very reason, suspicion of violating her parole, and I both searched her person and, with the permission of Armando Rodriguez, searched her campsite.
Did you find anything in the search of the campsite?
Yes, I found multiple things within her tent, including a hiking stick, a multi-tool, a map.
Would you recognize this map if it were shown to you today?
Yes, I would.
Approaching opposing counsel, was previously marked as Exhibit 23. Approaching the witness with the same. Would Your Honor like a courtesy copy? Detective Chesney, what have I just handed you?
You handed me a copy of the map I found in Jordan Ryder's backpack.
Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the map?
Yes, it does.
Does it appear to be changed or altered in any way?
No alterations.
Prosecution moves to enter Exhibit 23 into evidence.
Any objection?
Without objection, Your Honor.
It is admitted.
Now, what was the next step of your investigation?
Well, we began searching both the immediate campsite and I set out an Amber Alert informing that Parker Page was missing.
Did anyone assist you in this investigation?
Yes, camper by the name of Kelly Dews saw the Amber Alert and also found me, allowing us to search the campsite with better information.
Did you learn anything from Ms. Deuce's assistance?
Yes, she believed she had seen Jordan Ryder and Parker Page the day before and led us to that location where she last saw them.
And for the members of the jury, would you mind indicating where Ms. Deuce led you?
Yes, she led us to the intersection of where the separating path on the Lake Run Loop juts out to the Calkins Overlook indicated by this star. She led us to about the area where it meets in a T shape.
And what did you find when you arrived at this location?
Our police canine unit was able to pick up a trail, so we went back down the path to a more safer route, where at the bottom we were unable to find the body of Parker Page.
And for clarification of the members of the jury, would you mind indicating where you found Parker Page's body on the map?
Yes, a little bit lower down that path, located near the T location.
Approaching the witness to retrieve Exhibit 23. Does the courtesy copy suffice as standard evidence?
This courtesy copy will suffice for the court copy.
What did you do when you found Parker Page's body?
Well, I both secured the area, and I believe this may be a more active scene, so I called my fellow officers and told them to lock down the campsite and make sure no one was allowed to leave without being interrogated or spoken to.
And did any other members of the police conduct investigations with relation to Parker Page's body?
Yes, we were able to get Dr. Quincy on our team to come in and inspect the body before being moved to the official location.
And did you speak with anyone on the campground?
Yes, I spoke with Kelly Dews. I also spoke with Armani, and Armani had a registry which had various campers that were also there that weekend, one being a Cameron Lee.
And did you speak with Cameron Lee?
Yes, I called Cameron Lee because they had left that campsite earlier on the 15th, and I was able to get in contact with him later in the investigation.
Did you further investigate Cameron Lee at this time?
Yes, I did a background check on Cameron Lee and also a sex registry offender check just to make sure that everything was all right. I later did the same with Armani and Kelly.
And did you speak with Ms. Ryder?
Yes, I went back to the headquarters later that evening where I conducted an interrogation of Jordan Ryder with their permission.
Did you learn anything from this interrogation?
Yes, I spoke with them a bit. I learned about part of the reasons for going on the campsite, what their life was like recently, and oddly enough, they spoke about life insurance.
And did you speak with anyone else outside of the campsite and Ms. Ryder?
Yes, I was contacted by a few people. One was being Kai Washington. They contacted me shortly after the charges were filed, 15th, and I was also contacted by Remy Bouchard, a bakery owner near Pumpkins.
Did you speak with Remy Bouchard?
Yes, I spoke with them. They had found a cell phone that they believed belonged to Parker Page.
Did you learn anything from the cell phone?
Yes, we were able to learn that this was Parker Page's phone, and with the information from that, and also what had occurred during the interrogation of Jordan Ryder, I got access for a warrant to Jordan Ryder's internet history.
Did you find anything in this search of the internet history?
Yes, she had applied for a life insurance policy increase earlier on the 14th.
And would you recognize this life insurance policy if it were shown to you today?
Yes, I would.
Approaching opposing counsel was previously marked as Exhibit 25. Approaching the witness with the same. Would Your Honor like a courtesy copy? Detective Chesney, what have I just handed you?
You handed me a copy of the life insurance policy increase quote that I had found on Jordan Ryder's history.
Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, it does.
Does it appear to be changed or altered in any way?
No alterations.
And on the top left-hand corner, what does the logo say?
That is JFG Insurance.
And under electronic signature requested, whose signature is there?
That is Jordan Ryder's signature.
And under the date at the bottom of the policy, what does that say?
July 15th, 2018.
Prosecution moves to enter Exhibit 25 into evidence.
Any objection?
Objection more prejudicial than probative, Your Honor.
Explain.
This document is being used to prove a bias, not a bias, a motive to Jordan Ryder. In today's case, the opposing counsel does not need to prove a bias, they need to prove knowingly and causation. So the prejudicial value of this document far outweighs the probative value.
Okay, so you said bias and motive, and I think you're sticking
I was sticking with motive, yes.
Okay, because you fixed it and then it
Yeah.
came back. Okay. Do you have to prove motive?
Yes, sir.
Do you have to prove motive?
No, we don't.
Okay, what are you using it for?
We are using it to go to show that Jordan Ryder knowingly led to death of Parker Page. The motive, we believe, is a part of this, as beforehand they indicated on this life insurance policy. They filed a life insurance policy and then later caused the death.
Okay, motive and knowingly are different. You said that you're using this to show knowingly. How are you doing that?
We are going to show knowingly because if I may make an offer of proof, we will go to show that Jordan Ryder wrote on a napkin, and that this napkin would show that they had knowingly created this around the time that Parker Page died, and that therefore they knew that their intention was to commit this act in order to receive the money on this life insurance policy.
Response?
Your Honor, the napkin that's talked about, we can go into that when it's brought into exhibits. Right now, I'm talking about this document, and I still believe this document is far more prejudicial than probative.
Because it goes to the intent.
Yes.
Yeah, intent and knowingly are different. This goes to intent, which is not an element of your case. As far as I see it, even if you tie it with a napkin, it doesn't show knowingly, because there's no way for you to tie that to a particular time frame, except for a particular day. So I'm not going to let this in. So go ahead and take it from the witness. The objection is sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll move forward.
Detective Chesney, after you spoke to Remy Bouchard and Pat Washington, did you conduct background checks?
Yes, I did my best to look into anyone that was in this situation to make sure that there was no cause for them to have any actions in this case.
Did you find anything in these checks?
No, I did not.
Thank you, Detective Chesney. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
Good morning, Detective. I represent Jordan Ryder in today's case. I'm asking you a few questions today.
Of course.
So you were the lead detective in today's case, correct?
Yes, I was.
And as a detective, you strive to find the truth,
Yes, I believe that is my goal,
the absolute truth.
as best to my ability.
And to do that, you talked with some witnesses.
I talked to many witnesses, yes.
You spoke with Kelly Dews.
Yes,
Kelly Dews believes that they heard Jordan Ryder and Parker Page. They heard Parker Page scream at about 4:40.
yes, they claimed that.
And you also spoke with Cameron Lee.
Yes, Cameron Lee was present.
And Cameron Lee believes that they saw Jordan and Parker walk across a bridge around 4:30 p.m.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Response?
Your Honor, it's written within Cameron Lee's affidavit that Detective Chesney has a chance to go through as he's the detective of the case.
Do you have a different objection to lack of foundation for why we shouldn't hear what Cameron Lee said?
Object to hearsay.
Okay, response to hearsay.
Yeah, Your Honor. The statements of Cameron Lee aren't being used for the truth of the matter, rather than just statements that Detective Chesney took in and then used for his investigation.
So you're using it for subsequent action?
Yes.
What is the next step? Give me an offer of proof.
The subsequent action will go to show what Detective Chesney believes happened that day and how there was no actual accurate timeline of their investigation, creating an error in the investigation itself.
Response.
Your Honor, I believe if this is what they are going to show, I believe that they are using it for the truth of the matter, and therefore it is hearsay.
Right now, what you're saying isn't tying it to a direct action of this witness. If you can do that, I might allow it in, but right now, as it stands, the offer of proof isn't telling me something that he definitively did. Or you can use it to show a contradiction, but it didn't sound quite like you were doing that. So for right now, I'm going to sustain the objection, try again in a different way, but objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor.
And move to have the offending question stricken from the record.
Stricken.
Now, you arrived at Calkins at 10 a.m.
Yes, I got there shortly after we found that's where Parker Page's last notification was.
And you went to Jordan Ryder's campsite with Armani Rodriguez.
Yes,
You spoke to Jordan Ryder.
yes,
And at 10:09, you arrested Jordan Ryder for suspicion of parole violation.
yes, I questioned her shortly after 10 o'clock, and then shortly after I had her arrested.
You didn't specifically ask Jordan Ryder about her parole, though.
No, they brought it up themselves. They had not contacted the police previously, and that was one of the reasons they had failed to.
Now, you brought Jordan Ryder in for an interrogation later that day.
Yes, we took them to the headquarters shortly after their arrest and interrogated them once I made my way back.
And you asked about her parole during that.
Yes,
So you didn't ask about her parole until after you arrested her?
in suspicion of violating her parole? No.
Mr. Detective Chesney, you found some items in the campsite that day, correct?
Yes, I found a few items inside her campsite and her backpack.
You found a hiking stick,
Yes, that was one of them.
a shovel,
Yes,
and a multi-tool.
yes,
You submitted these items to Dr. Quincy.
yes, that was used in their report.
And Dr. Quincy ruled it a homicide after receiving these items.
Yes, they ruled out the possibility of a accidental death.
But before receiving these items, it was ruled an accident by Dr. Quincy.
Yes, Dr. Quincy will go into this much detail in their statement.
Now, you also received a cell phone from Raheem Sharp, correct?
Yes,
And this cell phone had some text messages on it.
yes, it was to one of Parker's friends, we believe.
And there was some text from Parker on that as well?
Yes, yes,
And you would recognize these texts if shown to you today.
yes, I would.
Permission to approach President Council.
You may. You don't have to ask to approach Mr. Council.
Permission to approach the witness. For reflective approach to the witness. Courtesy copy, Your Honor. Detective Chesney, what did I just hand you?
You handed me the text messages from Parker Page to Kennedy.
This is a fair and accurate copy.
Yes,
Does it appear to be altered, changed in any way?
no, it does not.
Your Honor, we move to offer Exhibit 27 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, the hearsay.
Okay. Response?
Your Honor, if I could point your attention to the orders of motion in limine.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about, so go ahead and talk about it while I
On the top of the page, on page 3, if I may read aloud while you read. The court has also considered a pretrial motion by defendant to exclude the text messages to Parker Page in Exhibit 27 as inadmissible hearsay.
Okay, are you objecting to Parker's statements?
I'm objecting to Kennedy's statements.
Okay. Response to Kennedy's statements?
Your Honor, I have no issue with Kennedy's statements being included in this. Her statements can be constructively redacted as long as Parker's statements are in.
Okay, are you amenable to them being constructively redacted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Kennedy's statements are constructively redacted, we just see Parker's statements on this document.
Thank you. I'd like to point your attention to the last text sent by Parker.
Yes,
And that text was sent at 4:38 p.m.
yes,
Now, you have a cell phone, Detective Chesney,
yes, don't use it too often, but
but you understand how it works.
I'm quite familiar.
You need cell phone service to send a text message.
Yeah, worse connection, the harder it is to send.
So you would agree that to send this text message, Parker would have needed to be in cell phone service.
Yes,
And she would have needed to be alive to send that text message.
yes,
So it's fair to assume that Parker was alive at least 4:38 p.m.
yes.
Now, Detective Chesney, multiple people talked about phone service that day, correct?
Yes, there was struggling around the campsite, but
Many thought it was spotty.
yes,
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Response?
Whether or not it was spotty or not is not being used for the truth of the matter in today's case. Rather, it's what Detective Chesney was told, and it will go to show not his subsequent action, but the actions that he didn't take, actually. That's what I'm going to prove.
Okay, if you're saying that you're not using it for the truth of the matter asserted, then I'm going to instruct the jury not to take that for the truth value, and I don't want to hear in closing that the signal was spotty based on this if we don't hear anything else in court today.
Yes, Your Honor.
The jury will be instructed, and for now, it's overruled.
You would agree that this text from Parker is the last time we have any kind of communication from Parker,
from what I have found, yes,
sent over cell phone service.
yes.
And you yourself used the service while there.
A couple of times, yes, that's how I contacted fellow officers.
So you would agree that there are parts of the park that do have service.
Yes,
But you didn't investigate which parts of the park specifically had service.
no, it was a large campsite, and using a cell phone at all places felt like an improper usage of time.
You didn't investigate the possibility of where Parker might have actually sent this text.
I did not get this text message, this information on this message until many weeks after the incident, so no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirections?
May I approach the witness and retrieve?
You may approach and retrieve. We'll take this for the court, courtesy copy for the court copy. Is there any redirect examination?
No redirect, Your Honor. I just asked the witness to be allowed to sit down.
Excuse me. Does the prosecution have a second witness?
It's Your Honor, prosecution costs coverage.
Excuse.
Please.
being called to testify?
Well, I was filming this brand new vlog for my travel vlog. It was a travel vlog. And I was in Midlands, going to all these different campsites, and I eventually made it to the Culkins campground. I was climbing this awesome hike called the LaCron Loop, and that's where I met this mother-daughter duo, Jordan and Parker. I guess some really awful stuff happened that weekend, and I'm just here to share with you what I know.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Dukes?
I'm lucky enough to do my passion for a living. I'm an influencer. I travel the world and get to make videos about it. I also sometimes do like thrill seeking. It's really, really amazing.
What brought you to the state of Midlands?
Like I said, that summer travel videos were really trendy on YouTube, so I myself wanted to make some. I headed to the Midlands, I went to the Lately Part Valley and the Millcroft Mountains, and I figured I would go check out the LaCron Loop, so that's why I was there.
And while on the LaCron Loop, did you come across anyone?
I did. I came across a lot of different people that day.
Did you come across Jordan and Parker?
Yes. I was climbing the LaCron Loop, and I saw this little girl and what looked to be like her mom, and the little girl and the mom introduced themselves to me, and it all seemed very normal, smiles, eye contact, and then after a little bit, things just got a little tense to me.
And what made things tense?
For starters, I noticed that the minute they stopped talking to me, the smiles vanished, all the niceties went away. I noticed Jordan seemed to be giving the little girl what I would consider to be like a pretty intense glare. The little kid had like this hiking stick too, and she was swinging it all around, like hitting trees and stuff. At a certain point, I noticed she started hitting the mom in the calf with like the hiking stick, and the mom swung around and took the hiking staff and started jetting it out in the air towards her. The whole thing just made me want to get the heck out of there.
And when you got out of there, where did you go?
I got off the trail for a little bit, and I thought I would go kind of try to see if I could get to the lake, but it was a lot of thick brush, and I gave up after about an hour.
And did you, after departing from the scene, did you come across Jordan and Parker again?
I did. So after I'd given up on going out to the lake, I figured I'd go check out the Culkins Rock. So I started heading back up the LaCron Loop, and at the Culkins Overlook, there were Jordan and Parker, right where I'd seen them earlier.
Can you tell me about the second encounter with Jordan and Parker?
Sure. I didn't really want to stop and talk, and I kind of wanted them to know I was there, so I moved some trees around, made a lot of noise, but that didn't seem to do anything. They kept talking back and forth, and I noticed that Jordan seemed to be reaching out towards Parker. I didn't really want to stay to figure out what she was reaching for. I thought it might have been her arm or maybe that hiking stick again. I just wanted to get out of there, though.
And after departing from this scene, did you hear anything?
Yeah, I kept walking up towards the rock, and I heard Parker shouting a whole bunch, but didn't pay any mind, just wanted to keep going my way. And then, after a little while, I heard this blood-curdling yelp. It was awful.
And after hearing this, did you consider going back to check on them?
Yeah, I considered it, but the problem was that there were a lot of really steep, like, spurs, so it just really wasn't an option, you know, with safety and whatnot. So I just called out into the woods instead and didn't get a response, so I figured everything must be okay with whatever that yelp came from.
Moving on to the next step. Can you tell me how you spent your next morning?
Sure, I was in my cabin. Being an influencer is really busy. All the videos you have to make, it's draining. So I like to make lists, and I was busy kind of making this to-do list. I was really deep in thought, and then I heard some sirens. So I looked out the window to see what was going on. There were just tons and tons of police cars in front of the campsite owner's cabin. So I went over to go see what that was all about.
And what was the conclusion of you investigating why the police were there?
Well, I met this detective. I think his name was Detective Chesney or something, but he showed me the picture of a little girl, and I was like, that's Parker. And then I, offered my help to the police, and I ended up going with them to go find, show them where I'd last seen Parker and her mom.
And if you're shown a copy of the map, copy of this campground today, would you recognize this copy shown to you today?
Yeah.
You wish to tell?
Yep, you can approach the bench. You don't have to ask for your own witness, just for some witnesses.
Ms. Dukes, on this matter, this is the copy of Cochran's campground I just handed you.
Yeah,
Can you point to where you last seen Jordan and Parker together?
sure. So if you look here, it looks like they have a little star thingy. That's the Culkins Overlook. And that's the last time I saw Jordan and Parker.
Together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir. May I proceed? Good morning, Ms. Dews.
Hi.
So, Ms. Dews, I want to talk to you about the 14th. Now, you took the electron loop,
I did. I hiked the conflict that day.
hiked the electron loop. And when you were hiking up it, you met Jordan Ryder and Parker Page.
I did.
And when you first met them, Parker Page was jabbing at Jordan Ryder's calf.
Oh yeah, she definitely was. And she was like hitting tree branches and stuff too.
And Jordan Ryder snatched that hiking staff out of Parker.
She did.
And Jordan Ryder swung back at Parker's head.
Yeah, Jordan was sort of like jetting the hiking stick out towards Parker. It didn't hit her though.
So you never saw her make physical contact with Parker.
No, I just saw her shoving a hiking stick towards her hip. But yeah, there was no physical contact.
Now, moving on to the second time you saw them, they were arguing,
Yeah, it seemed like they were arguing to me.
so you wanted to get past them as far as possible.
Yeah, I didn't really want to stick around for a mom-daughter spat.
And then you heard a scream, or
Uh,
are you yelling, a yell.
Yeah, I heard